Here's what's coming up on your horizon. Well, Oklahoma drivers may be in for a bumpy ride. Federal highway dollars could dry up if Congress doesn't pass a new transportation bill, and that's amid warnings that such political infighting could do long-term damage to our nation's infrastructure. Today, our focus is on transportation, from the roads we drive to the rail lines that crisscross the state, even the waterways that link us to ports around the globe. We'll look at a new study that suggests we have underfunded this vital infrastructure.
Transportation and infrastructure are things you rely on every single day.
I'll show you the impact new fuel-efficient vehicles are having on highway repairs. And Andy Barr takes us to rural Oklahoma to see how small-town residents are working to grow public transportation.
I like the fact that we're helping out the community a lot.
We'll look at the role turnpikes play in our transportation infrastructure, and we end our day with some students preparing to defend a national championship. Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in Career Tech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma Career Tech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. Well, in the past decade, Oklahoma has made great strides in improving the state's roads and bridges. A combination of federal and state monies has decreased the number of structurally deficient bridges in the state by almost 2/3. Yet Oklahoma still ranks in the bottom for states with rough roads and poor bridges, a problem that a nonpartisan group in the state says needs to be addressed. Joining me now with more on that story is our Shelby Farrell.
Well, Rob, the Oklahoma Academy is a statewide nonprofit advocacy organization that hosts yearly town hall events to bring attention to a variety of policy issues. And the group's focus this year is Oklahoma's transportation infrastructure. Getting stuck in traffic can be frustrating, and Julie Knudsen with the Oklahoma Academy says the solution is broader than just our highways.
It isn't just roads and bridges, and it isn't just waterways or trains. It's all of the ways that we transport ourselves, products, or information. And so if Oklahoma is going to stay abreast and stay with the rest of the nation and the world in today's situation, then we need to be planning now for how we have an effective transportation infrastructure system.
And Knudsen says the biggest hurdle to fixing our infrastructure: money.
We did make some suggestions as to things that could be looked at, and some of that involves taxes, of course, the dreaded word. But I think, as long as people are informed and understand transportation and infrastructure are things you rely on every single day, then not today or not tomorrow, but certainly within a reasonable time frame, we ought to be able to come up with some needed excess revenue or necessary revenue to further the cause of developing safer highways, better rail, even expanding rail in terms of passenger, just to help with costs sometimes of getting places.
Expansions like a commuter rail service between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. The Eastern Flyer began running daily on Memorial Day. Knudsen says adding commuter trains to Oklahoma's rails is a move the Academy welcomes.
Way back in '98, the Academy recommended that not only do we put that back in place, get effective passenger transportation between the two major cities, but then once you get that done, then start building spokes out to other cities.
Oklahoma Senator Susan Paddock says now is a better time than ever for the comeback of railways.
There is a real interest in the rail, and I think as we see more congestion on our roads, the rail becomes more important to move products to take that congestion off the roads. So I think there's a really vital role for rail to be played in our state at this time.
Knutson says one option could be renovating old, unused rails.
Well, and we have track across the state that years ago was dedicated for, well, in fact, years ago was probably utilized as passenger rail as well as freight movement rail. But then it's not being used now, so it's a matter of can some of that rail be renovated or cleaned up or maybe repositioned a bit.
And with our roads becoming more crowded, rail may prove to be a valuable alternative.
All aboard!
And according to the group, no matter the route, the key to a successful, high-quality transportation infrastructure is a sustainable funding stream.
Now, Shelby, as I understand it, the amount of state taxpayer dollars going towards transportation has more than doubled in the past few years.
That it has. It is all a part of an 8-year plan to invest $6 billion into the state's roads and bridges. But state officials will tell you that because they have been underfunded for so long, there is still a long way to go.
All right, thank you so much, Shelby. Now, Oklahoma City is on its way to bring a streetcar system to downtown. Included in this year's budget is an operations manager's position to establish that service. Now, once completed, the downtown route will stretch about 4.5 miles and go as far north as 11th Street and as far south as Reno, connecting the St. Anthony Hospital campus to Bricktown and eventually expanding to OU's Medical Center and the MAPS 3 Park. Now, when we return, we'll take a closer look at how the Oklahoma Academy recommends we improve the roads and bridges around the state.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, among the recommendations to come out of this year's Oklahoma Academy Town Hall meeting is the need to rethink our fuel taxes. Oklahoma currently collects 17 cents on every gallon of gasoline sold in the state. It's a flat rate that has not changed in years, and the same goes for the federal gas tax rate. If you will, consider this. Although gasoline prices have tripled since 1993, both the federal gas tax as well as our state gas tax, well, they haven't budged 1 cent, with the federal gas tax remaining a flat 18.4 cents per gallon for the last 20 years. And when you adjust for inflation, it has actually fallen to just 12 cents a gallon. And here's why that matters. It is the revenue from this gas tax that goes to maintain our highways and bridges. But thanks to inflation, it has been effectively reduced by 35%. Now, last year, the average American driver paid $99 in federal gas taxes and $110 in state fuel taxes, which again is an average because when you look at the U.S. as a whole, here in Oklahoma, we have one of the lowest fuel tax rates in the nation. In fact, at 35 cents a gallon, which is 17 cents state and just over 18 cents federal, we pay almost half in local and state fuel taxes than what residents of California and New York do. We even fare better than our neighbors of Kansas at 43 cents a gallon, Arkansas at 40 cents, and Texas at 38 cents a gallon. And when you compare us as a nation to other industrialized countries, the difference is even more dramatic. When you add up local, federal, and state gas taxes, the U.S. average is 41 cents a gallon. Compare that to Canada, which is almost twice that, while those in Great Britain and Germany pay over 8 times what we do. So the next time you hit a pothole or stuck in traffic, know that while we may be paying less, we're also getting less when it comes to the roads we all share in our daily commute.
America, can we afford the road ahead? Let's look back to see where we're going. In 1980, all those preppies, valley girls, and yuppies drove about 18 miles a day. They already complained about traffic. But over the next 32 years, more cars and more drivers joined them on the road, driving more miles on basically the same roads they did in 1980. Here's the fact. Today, we're driving nearly twice as many miles as we did in 1980, but we've added only 6% more miles of public roads. We spend more than twice as much time in traffic. That makes us less productive. Cars that stand in traffic burn more gas, adding to pollution. Those overworked roads break up and damage your car. As for the future, by the government's own estimates, we're short in keeping up with the roads we do have. It would be like driving the same car you did in 1980 and not keeping up with all the repairs.
And here is what the Oklahoma Academy is proposing. Instead of a flat rate per gallon, the Academy is proposing we tie state fuel taxes to the wholesale price of fuel. And while revenues from that tax will rise and fall according with gas prices, this new model enables the fuel tax to rise with inflation and actually fund the repairs it was intended to. And while other research groups and think tanks have recommended similar solutions, to date, none have been adopted because it is hard to find consensus in either party of doing something that could lead to higher fuel prices, which this proposal would, even when that's how we fund our roads and bridges.
Still to come on Oklahoma Horizon, an Oklahoma team defending a national championship. But first, public transportation in rural Oklahoma.
Well, in most any quality of life survey, public transportation is one of the key criteria. That's because of several reasons. It's cheaper, better for the environment, and cuts down on the time we spend stuck in traffic because there are fewer vehicles on the road. All positive impacts for any community, including those that are rural. Our Andy Barth takes us to one such rural community that is leading the way in public transportation.
It's a common sight in places like New York or Los Angeles. Cabs taking people wherever they need to go. But here in rural Oklahoma, it's a different scene.
I think it's vital. Without this service, a lot of people wouldn't be able to have the freedom to go places when they want to.
Amy Locke is the administrative assistant at First Capital Trolley in Guthrie and says the company strives to be a leader in the area.
We do a lot of services in the community. We give people rides to medical appointments, shopping, around town. We do a lot of aging service. We also do historic trolley tours. We have a Langston shuttle that goes to the university and back to town to the grocery store and Walmart.
But the trolley doesn't just serve the Guthrie community.
We actually cover 3 counties. We do Logan County, Lincoln County, and Payne counties, and we also take people for medical appointments to Edmond, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa.
Making drivers log a lot of miles.
Some of our Sooner Ride drivers actually drive 500 miles or so a day.
It's a lot of driving. But for driver Wendy Kinder-Hurley, she enjoys serving the community.
I like the fact that we're helping out the community a lot.
And helping the community takes Hurley all over.
We do everything from taking people to Walmart to taking people to dialysis and chemotherapy and just regular doctor visits. It's all about the people.
This is David.
And driver David Ham couldn't agree more.
11:30.
It feels like you're actually doing something that's beneficial. You're helping out people that have no other options and no other way to get around.
And so David buckles up to help his fellow citizens get around town.
We are going to Easttown Village, an apartment complex, to pick up someone that is going to the God's Food Bank to get some groceries, a food pantry.
Trolley customer Latanya Muldrow.
They're good. They take you anywhere you need to go. I like it.
People have used public transportation for decades. But Patty Monahan with the National Rural Transit Assistance Program says rural transit is vital to keep small communities going.
Rural transit serves a lot of different needs in areas. It takes people to work, it takes people to medical facilities, it takes people shopping. It really provides a lifeline to a lot of services for people in those smaller communities.
And if it weren't for rural transit services, Locke says people would be left to fend for themselves.
You know, they'd be relying on friends and relatives just to go to the grocery store, to go out to lunch with friends, to go to a doctor's appointment. We make that easy for them.
Let me ask you this. Rural transit, making a better life for small town citizens and the people who drive them.
I wouldn't trade this job for anything.
Now statewide, there are 25 public transit systems, 22 of which are in rural Oklahoma. You can keep up with us throughout the week. Just head to okhorizon.com where you can see more of any of our stories, read our reporters behind the scenes blogs, see what others are saying about us on Twitter, and face the facts with our regular updates. So reach out and touch us anywhere and anytime. Well, one solution to our underfunded public transportation infrastructure is toll roads, sort of a pay-as-you-go system. Earlier, I sat down with the Deputy Director of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, Tim Stewart. Well, Tim, certainly a lot of talk about transportation dollars down at the Capitol this last session, but I think there is some confusion over the Transportation Department and the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority.
You know, it's a good point. Of course, transportation funding is vitally important to everyone. And there's concern about that diminishing over time with the ability of motor fuel tax to keep up with demand. That's quite frankly where we stepped in. And we stepped in back in 1953 when we built our first roadway. We're self-funded. We don't receive any state or federal tax support. The only people that pay the turnpike and turnpike tolls are those customers that use our system. So gas tax is not used to fund the Turnpike Authority. We are self-funded. We partner with the Department on Transportation Needs, but we use the funds generated on the system to reinvest into the system.
So it's user-based. How much of that money comes from out of state?
About last year, about 40% of our total revenue, which was about $96 million, came from out-of-state users. So that's $96 million that might have otherwise not been available to transportation needs in Oklahoma. We're able to use that $96 million to pour back into our system to help, again, provide safe and convenient passage.
In comparison to other systems, turnpike systems around the nation, how does Oklahoma sit? Do we have more toll roads, less toll roads? Do we pay more, pay less?
Total mileage, we have a little over 600 miles of roadway. So if you looked at our system nationally, we tip back and forth between us and New York State. We have almost the most mileage of roadways. That being said, our rate to use it per mile, if you took all of the similar tolling facilities throughout the U.S., of which there are 34 states that have that, if you looked at all of those and averaged them and then took our rate per mile versus the average rate per mile for a passenger vehicle, we're 57% below the national average. And for a commercial, a large truck carrier, we're 62% below the national average. So we keep our rate per mile very low.
So you said 600 miles. Is there any talk about expansion?
Of course, we have multiple authorized projects on our list. We don't build a project unless the legislature authorizes it, but we've not built all of those, and we're not envisioning building anything new in the immediate future. We have an aging system. Oldest turnpike, 61 years old, and we need to reinvest into that network. We're trying to, again, keep it a sound, safe system, so reinvesting in ourselves is important. Now, if a new need arised in Oklahoma for commerce or safe shipment, we'd definitely be part of that equation, and we discuss it with them, but we have nothing on the immediate plans.
Are there any rules or regulations? I know it's 75 on the turnpikes that you don't have on the other highways in the state.
We have separate legislative authorization for speeds. Now, any of the speeds that are set on our system, we try to look at it from an engineering analysis standpoint to ensure it's safe. We make a recommendation to the Commissioner of Public Safety, and by resolution, the board adopts a proposal that the commissioner looks at from an enforcement and safety standpoint, and if he agrees, then we post the speeds. And as you pointed out on the turnpikes, we've been able to comfortably post a 75-mile-an-hour speed, but probably can't go any higher than that. And on state highways, similarly positioned, they're 70 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. But they're still patrolled by Highway Patrol.
Oh, they are, by all means. We as part of our total funding, operating funding package, which last year was about $72 million, $12 million of that went to reimburse the Highway Patrol that patrol our system. So 100% of the cost for law enforcement on the turnpike is paid through turnpike tolls or turnpike fees. We don't receive appropriated dollars for those troopers. We're down a little bit in the number of troopers we need out there, but last year we had about 100 troopers out there patrolling the network, and we paid 100% of that cost.
Final question for you. You have a pike pass, and say you're driving another car. I'm not saying I've done this, but I have. And you forget that you do not have a pike pass up in your car, and you zip right through as normal. What happens then?
Well, if you zip through those electronic toll collection lanes, we'll image the vehicle you're driving. Look up the license plate tag information of that vehicle and contact the owner of the vehicle. If it happened to be you, you would contact us and say, you know, I've done something in error. What can I do to correct that? If you're a customer, we're just going to charge that toll to your account and wipe it clean. For an initial out-of-state guy that makes an error in judgment, for the first time we're going to send him a courtesy notice and say, you know what, you may have made a mistake and here's what we believe the mistake may have been. So in the future when you write our system, here's how you correctly pay the tolls. But if he does it again, we're going to image that vehicle, send him a notice, and if he doesn't have an account, it's going to be a $25 fine.
Certainly an interesting system and one a lot of us Oklahomans use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to share something you've seen here today? Well, all of our episodes are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV. Or you can subscribe to our weekly free podcasts on iTunes.
Well, some Oklahoma students are preparing to defend a national title this fall. Automotive technology students from Eastern Oklahoma County Technology Center are trying to repeat as the winners of the National Hot Rodders of Tomorrow Engine Challenge champions. As our Lisa Hines reports, it is a contest just as much about getting a good job as winning the competition.
As time ticks away, pieces of engine are stripped away. It's a competition to see how fast students can rebuild an engine. Jim Lefevers is the automotive instructor at Eastern Oklahoma County Tech Center.
Penalties do apply, and they will apply today. They take a completed motor like you'd buy a crate motor. This one has the air cleaner on it, headers and all that stuff. Basically put fire, fuel, and oil and start the car, start the engine, and it would run. They'll tear it all the way down to a bare block, and then they build it all the way back to factory specs. Just like if you put fire, fuel, and oil in it, when they got done, it should run if everything was done right. They'll have 5 judges watching everything they do to make sure they torque everything, to make sure they adjust the valves right, to make sure they torque it in order. They'll do everything. I mean, this would be a crate motor. Instead of being built in over a day's time, they're building it in under 20 minutes.
A contest that Kennedy Oji says each student has his or her own responsibilities during the rebuild.
I do the left side headers and valve cover, and then I move to the front end and do the whole front end.
Now Lefevers says the competition is beneficial to the students in more ways than one.
It does a lot of things. One, it gets all those students a jump start in their career in the automotive trade. Every advantage that we can give these students nowadays to get a start in their career is a fantastic opportunity. It teaches teamwork. They have to learn to work together as a team. Same as you're going to do in a dealership or in an independent garage setting. You're going to have to depend on your other people to help set ahead and kind of help do other different things. So they learn that process. And the other deal is it helps my enrollment. Kids want to be a part of this deal. I mean, last year those kids won over $250,000 in scholarships. So it's a fantastic opportunity to get their career started.
For veteran team member Ryan Campbell, winning last year's competition earned him $30,000 in scholarship money, which is paying the way to his future.
With my recently acquired scholarships, I'll probably end up going to Sam's Automotive School of Machinists and getting a CNC.
And Campbell says there is a method to the madness.
Function well under pressure. Move quickly with everything you do, and always be thinking ahead.
Clear. During competition, student skills are on display for future employers to see.
They're doing this in front of CEOs and managers of all these thousands of companies. And this weekend, for the first time, they've taken us to Texas Motor Speedway, and we're going to be doing it at the Good Guys Car event. So they're going to be street rodders and race car drivers, racers all over. Some of the scholarship money that some of these kids get an opportunity. I got a young man that's right now at the NASCAR Institute at UTI in North Carolina. That's an opportunity for him to work for a NASCAR team. One of my former students from this team is also going to go to SAM, School of Automotive Machinists, an opportunity where all the drag race guys hire all their team members to go to. This is just a door open to a lot of job opportunities and a lot of career opportunities for every one of these kids.
Opportunities for well-paying jobs.
I had a couple of former students that when they would have graduated without this contest would have started somewhere between $10 and $12 an hour, started at $20. The next day out of high school, within 6 months, was making $22 to $25 an hour. So this experience is fantastic for them. It gets them a jump start on that career. And they come in at a higher wage, and that's what it's all about.
Fast-tracking these students to a lucrative career that's racing down the highway.
They're looking for the thumbs up. Good to go, Eastern Oklahoma.
This could be some parents' worst nightmare. Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we look at the lessons that can be learned by getting dirty.
The idea here is about fun. It's not about a race. We're not interested in who comes first. It's about going out with friends and accomplishing things together. If they need help, can you do that for me?
Plus, we look at work underway to fight obesity in Native America. On the Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, we are out of time. I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for watching. See you back here next week.
Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. Thank you for watching Oklahoma Horizon.